Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joanna Penn. I'm here with Orna Ross. Hello, Orna.
Hi, Joanna, and hi, everyone. Here we are again.
Here we are again, and this is the September 2016 Alliance of Independent Authors members only Q&A session, where Orna and I get really enthusiastic about all things indie, and we answer your questions. Now, we have an absolute ton of questions this week because we actually failed to get through all of them last month. But before we get into it, we always like to update you on what we're doing because we are authors and we create as well as talking about it. So, Orna, give us an update on you and also the ALLi things.
Yeah, well, I am in the middle of setting up a new broadcast, which will be an audio and video broadcast around my Go Creative series and the principles in that. And that's taking up loads of time in terms of thinking about my own work and where it falls within the balance of creative writing, creative publishing, and creative living. And I've put out a poetry pamphlet. I know nobody cares about my poetry pamphlet, but I do. And yeah, generally, it's very much on the sort of creative end of things right now. But you have a very big commercial success to talk about.
Yes. Okay. So I set a goal, and this is the important thing. I set a goal to hit the USA Today list as a single name author. I've been on the USA Today and New York Times as in a box set with other authors, but I saw other individual thriller authors doing it and thought, oh, I'm going to try it too. And set a goal for a specific week, put a whole load of advertising in place, and yes, I hit number 121 on the USA Today. So hit the USA Today as JF Penn with a box set, but my own box set of my first 3 novels, and so a reduced deal, $6.99 to 99 cents, and all the marketing tactics possible. And I think that's the biggest lesson learned. I used a technique called ad stacking that lots of people have been using for a while, but it's the first time I really got organized because, you know, you and I both, we're kind of, you know, we do marketing, but generally I kind of do marketing ongoing. But this was, you have to book everything for 1 week and just go hard. And yeah, anyway, so I hit that list. And if people are interested, there's a piece on my blog, how to hit the USA Today list with ad stacking.
I wouldn't think people would be interested. No,
Well, they might be. But what's so funny is, personally, like, it was just something I almost wanted to do to just prove a point. It wasn't necessarily a specific goal, but it's very interesting that you can still do that with the USA Today. You can't do it with the New York Times because they have curators that decide what's good enough, and it's not just number based, whereas USA Today is number based. So yeah, that was interesting. But what are the ALLi updates?
ALLi updates, just before I get on to that, just a quick question, because I think it's very interesting for people who are listening, and huge congratulations, because it's an incredible achievement. Can you just talk very briefly about kind of cost to benefit, and if you're purchasing all that advertising, and,
yeah, sure,
and how much you were selling the book for, and just to give people a very quick rundown, and then they will of course go to your blog to get the gory details.
Yes, well, I put the entire P&L in detail on the blog post, which I got a bit of flack for, to be honest. But it cost me around $4,600 US, and I got back around 4,000. I lost around $750 US. Okay. So I got back, you know, 4,000 or whatever of that 4,500 cost. The 700, so I technically lost $700, but the offset, I got a lot of people on my email list that will get them into the algorithms. They'll buy other books. So that was literally just for that week, how many books I sold in that week. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't go into future sales. So basically, I also think most authors would pay $750 to hit the USA Today list.
Absolutely. If a marketeer came along and said, I guarantee I can get you onto that list for this amount of money, people would pay it. And time and effort?
Very little. I was on holiday. This is what's so great about paid ads for fiction. Like, unlike non-fiction, like podcasting and whatever, which takes ages, I got a book bub. This is the first step. Get a book bub. And obviously that can take a while. But if you get one, then you book a ton of ads around it. So all of that was scheduled in advance. The price change, you just do that and then run away. And then I set up Facebook ads to run as well. And I scheduled emails to my list. So I literally was away for that week on holiday. And that's when it hit the list. So you can do all this in advance. And I think it's if you want to hit a specific goal like that, then having that kind of stacking approach is a good idea. I realize that many people won't have that upfront budget, because obviously you get the cash back 60 days later, so you don't get it back that week. But for me, as I can do this, and I wanted to just prove a point. So it definitely can be done.
Okay, brilliant. And thanks for sharing how you did it. Fantastic. Okay, on ALLi front, loads going on because it's kind of back to school time. September, we're it's just so funny the way everything just goes in August, quiet, and then last week of August, boom, and then September it takes off. So we know the rhythm now. We've been here a few years at this stage. So we're planning around our Fringe event, which will be at it's Fringe to Frankfurt Book Fair, and that will be on the topic of running a business as an indie author. So everything to do with time and money, and it's shaping up really, really well. We're also looking at a new ratings guide. Our watchdog, John Doppler, from the Watchdog Desk, has been working on a very simple guide where if you're considering using a service, you can just go to the page and alphabetical order, you can look and see, is it recommended, not recommended, or is there a warning sign, or are they a partner member of ALLi, which is the highest possible accolade, obviously. So that's been fun and interesting, and there's lots going on in the service space. It's really, really dividing now between those who get it and those who don't. We have had, since the start, a particular difficulty around marketing and PR services, and so we are changing our policy on that, and I think I'll hold that and talk about it. I know there's a question coming which will allow me to kind of explain a little bit more about what we're doing there. But basically we're just gearing up for another season, and everyone is gung-ho. Things are just getting better and better, really, for publishers who know what they're doing.
And print edition of How Authors Sell Publishing Rights, which is fantastic book, and everybody should download their copy in the members area and tell other authors to get it. It's now become my second recommended book after the choosing a self-publishing service.
Well, there's so little out there on this topic of rights, and this is something that we'll be looking at loads in the Fringe as well, because really once you've got to the point of selling your books in your original English language, rights should be swimming into your consciousness, and how you would actually work with a small publisher to take some of the workload and share the profits with you. But you've got to be so careful, and contracts are a little bit of a minefield. But on the other hand, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around rights. People kind of think it's a lot harder than it is. And I think this part of the jigsaw is about to be kind of turned on its head in the way that we turned, Amazon turned things on their head in the first place. And there's certainly a need for that. So,
Awesome.
So we launched the book at Frankfurt Book Fair, the print edition of that book, and that's with Helen Sedgwick, who is our fabulous legal person, one of them, and she's just amazing. She's got all the legal stuff, and then we've lots of examples of our members and what they've been doing in the right space, some of whom are doing very interesting things.
Yeah, great book. Okay, let's get into the questions. Sarah says, a while back, you mentioned how you invested in having a number of editors and proofreaders for your first book. I think that was addressed to me. Did you send your manuscript to various editors at the same time, or did you have it edited by one, then you made the changes, send it to a second or third? So yes, my first novel, it's very difficult to write a novel, and especially your first one. So basically, yes, what I did was I first got a story edit, then I got it back, I made the changes, then I sent it to a line editor, got it back, did the changes, then I decided it wasn't good enough. I sent it to another story editor, got it back, another line editor, and then a proofreader. So my first novel got a lot of editing. And 2 years after I first self-published it, I re-edited it and got feedback on it again, which I think happens with quite a lot of first self-published novels. So yes, I did use multiple editors, but also right now my process is to use one editor for story and line editing and one proofreader. So I use two. Any comments?
Nope, that's pretty much it. I think in the trade publishing world, authors are now hiring editors, to put their books together before they send them in for publishing, and everybody's beginning to realize just how key editing, of course, is to the process. And there's very big difference between different kinds of editors. If you want to know the differences, it's on Joe's site, and it's in our resources, and it's in choosing a self-publishing service. So you don't hire a developmental editor for your proofreading. She wouldn't know how to do it, and so on. So be clear about the kind of editing you need, and the kind you need at first is developmental or story edit or whatever. And also nonfiction also needs editing at that developmental level. You can get a huge amount of a boost in your book from having the right editor. Choose your editor like you choose your spouse. You know, you need to take that sort of care around it.
Okay, this one's for you. Natalie said, can you explain the difference between trade paperback and mass market paperback, and what should you do as an indie?
Ignore, really, unless you had a bookstore that was saying, I want you to give me the books in mass paperback format. You can, as an indie, choose what size you want your book to be. Most indies fall into the general sort of run of what trade publishing has traditionally done. But a lot of those sizes are decided, yes, by the content of the book, in the sense that a highly illustrated encyclopedia obviously is not going to go out in an 8.5. But, a lot of it was decided by the price points that arose depending on, how many copies of the book were going to be sold and so on. So it was very carefully considered within the business model of the trade publishing sector. As indies, we can just kind of drop a lot of that. If you're just interested in getting a plain text novel or nonfiction book out to the public, then just go for one of the standard sizes. All of the print, POD, the good people like CreateSpace and Ingram Spark are very helpful around this. You'll see lots of examples, and just ask other authors, look and see what other people are doing in the genre that you're writing in. Unless you've got a huge kind of interest yourself in making a book that there's a certain size and has a certain sort of appeal, I would just forget about it.
Yeah. Okay, so Resma says, question about book covers. I'm about to work with a book cover designer for both paperback and ebook. Paperback and ebook. Are there certain specifics I need to keep in mind when considering how the cover will appear online, in the final print, as an ebook, as a thumbnail? And do I need the ISBN number first so the artist can include it on the cover?
Okay. ISBNs, I presume you're talking there about the print version?
Yeah, like the barcode.
Not the ebook version. Yeah. So yes, there are different considerations for ebook and print, obviously. And the thumbnail has become the most important thing. It's the most important image, if you like. It used to be the book on the shelf, which is a very different sort of piece of art than something that has to kind of pop at thumbnail size. So that has had a big effect on book design in the last 5 years, and you need to take that seriously into consideration. You need to think about the title, you need to think about the book, the cover being genre specific, so that it actually looks to the reader like, oh, this is that kind of book that I like to read. And you need to make sure that your author name is visible. And aside from that, keeping it clean and well designed and all of that. In terms of having the ISBN for the cover, yes, that's useful, and it should also go onto a title page and everything before you're finished. So you allocate your ISBN before you send your book for production.
Just to add to that, if you're working with a professional book cover designer, they should know everything. You shouldn't be the one instructing a professional book cover designer on different types of design. That's why you're paying them. So they should tell you things. The thing that you give to them is examples of genre specific books that match your type of book. Like, here's 10 other book covers in this category that my book should resonate with. And just on the ISBN thing, so I'm with CreateSpace, and you don't put the ISBN on the cover. That is automatically generated. The cover designer just leaves a space for it, and then it gets put on when it gets printed. But I don't know if Ingram Spark is different.
No, that's fine on POD. It just maybe the questioner is thinking also of having their own print run. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, so there you go. Right, two questions so from Bonnie and Pam have both said, how does an American author best reach prospective buyers of her book in the UK and Europe? And Pam says, what sites do you market your book specifically for British readers? So I'll answer that, because a very surprising thing happened with my push for the USA Today. So I basically used all the standard American sites, so obviously BookBub being the main one, Bargain Booksy, and a whole list there on that blog post. And I didn't do Facebook ads for the UK. I wasn't focusing on the UK at all. So much so that when the BookBub went out, I didn't even check my rankings. So I didn't check my rankings as soon as the main sales hit, but I checked a day later. So one day after, I checked my rankings on the UK, and I was like 117 in the UK store, the entire UK store, just from a BookBub. So BookBub now are not just the kings of the US market, they are also the kings of the UK market, and they have two other countries, USA and India, not USA, Australia and India, that they're also moving into, which is interesting because one news item this week, Mashable announced that Amazon has overtaken Flipkart to be India's #1 e-commerce site. So that's big news. And I mean, most of us haven't had any traction with Amazon India yet, probably because we've got our pricing all screwed up. But I'm really interested in how BookBub are taking on that market. The Australian market is tiny. There's only 20 million people. It's like a third of the size of Britain. Not even a great book buying market either, compared to India, where there's a lot, like 1.2 billion or something.
It's crazy. It definitely is the up and coming. We've got to learn. Self-publishers have got to learn how to kind of get into this market.
Yeah.
And
you and me, Jaipur Festival.
Yeah, I like it.
Let's not bother with Frankfurt or London. Let's just go to
the
Delhi.
Thing is that in India itself is still a bit resistant. It's still in love with the print book and the bookstore. It's to actually see that begin to break. So even though Amazon has overtaken Flipkart, which they set out to do, that was their little goal. There's a long way to go before we have the sort of penetration we have in the UK. So yeah, which means it's all to play for, of course. And we have a number of very interesting and active Indian members who are keeping a very close eye on things for us and letting us know what's happening there. So yeah, watch that space.
Yeah. Super fun. And again, just to, for everybody to think forward. So at this time of the 4 years, when it's the Olympics, I always like to remind everyone to think in Olympic time. So if you think like where you were in 2012, or where you were, in fact, was the Alliance just starting out?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never heard you say that before.
Oh, really? Oh, I go on about it every 4 years.
Olympian time. We're on Olympian time.
We are on Olympian time. So if I think like 2008, Beijing Olympics, I was living in Australia. I didn't know you. I had no novels. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. And then 4 years later, 2012, I met you, I think. And I had 2 novels. I'd left my day job to become a full-time author. And I was making not very much money, but I'd left my job. And now 2016, USA Today, New York Times, whatever, making really good money. So I'm now thinking 2020, what do I want to achieve in the next Olympic period? So for everybody listening, like 1 year is just flies by, right? I mean, how much can you achieve in 1 year? But if you think Olympic periods and can reflect on your life, 2008, 2012, 2016, and then push forward to 2020, what are you going to be doing? And I mean, I want to have a best-selling book in India. That would be awesome. That's possible by 2020. So
what about this show in 2020?
Yeah, but what about you? Any thoughts on 2020 or reflection back?
Yeah, what I'm thinking right now is I love the idea Olympian time, and I actually think it's a really good idea to think that way. I have never been really that kind of person. I'm the kind of person who follows the little thing along the track. So, maybe it's time for a big 2020 goal. I'll get back to you.
Get back to me. But the fact that you only came up with the Alliance in 2012.
Well, absolutely. If I think back, 2008 was the last book launch I did with Penguin.
Oh,
And
wow.
I knew as I was launching that book, this is over.
This is over.
I don't want to work with these people anymore, and I'm sure they don't want to work with me anymore. No matter what happened to the book, I knew it was over. And so that was then. And then 2012 was falling in love, literally, with self-publishing and what it can do, and the kinds of people who choose to do it and do it well. And yeah, here we are. So, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I will set a goal.
Yeah, I think so. But it's just, I find it quite liberating to think in Olympic time, because you don't have to be stressed like, oh my goodness, it's like September already. It's, you know, there were Christmas menus out at the pubs and it's like, what's going on?
I know, and it's such a long game.
Yes.
Books, you know, books are not about what happens in a year ever, and it's quite difficult. You need to be a particular kind of person to hold the length of time that it takes to write. Some of us, it takes a lot longer than others, you know, to hold the project for that length of time. This Go Creative project of mine, holding it, falling apart, messing, you know, it's not right, putting it back together. Then something actually needed to happen, which happened in my life this year, for it all to make sense. Now I can pull it together and it's finally all making sense, all aspects of my work. But that has taken a full 4 years. So I'm liking this 4 years thing. Yeah.
Yay! Yeah, cool. Okay, right. The reason you haven't heard me talk about it is because we didn't know each other during the 2012 Olympics. So that will be why. Okay, so Anita says, on Amazon, my books don't have table of contents. I've heard that Amazon will be removing them. So should I do one? And also, do we need to activate DRM?
Quick answer is I sincerely doubt that Amazon is going to be getting rid of table of contents. It's a basic in a book. It's really essential in a lot of books, and this is one of these Amazon rumors I would guess. So forget about that until it happens. I don't think it will. And DRM, the answer is no. Don't. You know, where it says, do you want DRM? The answer is no. And we've gone into detail on that in previous posts as to why that is. But essentially, we've so many questions that I hope no will just suffice tonight.
No, because we've said no. No, because it's respecting your reader's choice. There you go. Okay, Dave says, I've been offered a publishing contract by a certain publisher, which is a contribution-based contract requiring me to contribute a certain sum towards the publisher's outlay for publicity, proofing and binding. I would like your advice, please.
Well, straight away when I hear that approach, warning bells go off for me. You know, this is now the approach that is being taken by profiteering publishing outfits, which used to be called vanity publishers. And rather than saying, you know, we're a self-publishing service or we're, you know, a publishing service, they give the impression that they're a trade publisher. And they talk about your contribution to the process and so on, like we're hand in hand together and we're dancing down the garden path and we're all going to be very happy. But actually, they're not offering anything for that money that you're paying. So there are exceptions. There are some fantastic assisted publishing services who talk about what they do, tell you how much it's going to cost, talk about how they market books, and people are very happy with them. There are a handful of those, a growing number of shared publishing setups whereby, you know, small publishers get together with authors. Sometimes they're authors themselves already, and royalties are divvied out and the work is divvied out, and people are happy, and that's fine too. But you've got to be really careful, and that sort of language always kind of makes my ears prick up and think, and now, yeah, so I would say tread carefully with that one. Now we know who the publisher is, and we're not going to actually name it. And when we went into it, we realized that yes, indeed, as we thought, it is a publisher to avoid. So what I'd like to say is two things. We have a book called Choosing a Self-Publishing Service, which gives you the criteria by which you can evaluate any publishing service. And we have that in the blog post as well. We're now going to be putting together a special page in the Self-Publishing Advice Centre, which will be ratings of services. And we will have a very simple sort of scale on it, which will tell you if they're, as I said at the top of the show, for those who weren't there at the time, it will be either partner member, recommended, not recommended, or warning across the board. But you need to develop a sense of what does a service do for me if I pay money, and what's the return I'm going to get. So you begin with yourself and you begin to think about, do I, what am I trying to do when I hire this service? Am I actually just, I'm too lazy, I don't really want to do this, I want to get somebody to do it for me? I can almost guarantee you that's not going to end well. They're not going to be able to give you what you want because they don't even know, and you're probably choosing the wrong person to do it with. And I would also like to say that particularly when it comes to marketing, which is where people are looking for the most help, and PR services, which kind of get your book into publications, media, and so on, these have been particularly tricky for ALLi from the start, because it's one of the very few businesses in life where you can actually say, give me $3 or $4 or $5 or $6 or $10,000, pounds, or whatever, and I'll do my best. But if I don't manage to do anything whatsoever for you, well, that's kind of tough. I'm just going to go over here and get another client. And that's essentially how those businesses have always worked, rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But for an author, they are really probably not the best way to approach the business. So from now on, when it comes to marketing and PR, rather than advising our members to hire a marketeer or a public relations service, first of all, hire an assistant and work out what your marketing plan is and what your strategy is. And then when you understand what it is to do PR, what it is to do marketing for an indie book, then you're in a position to hire some help. And then maybe somebody that costs $5 or $6 grand can actually help you.
Oh, it's tough. I mean, it really is. And I would just say that there are obviously lots of people who want to pay who have more money than time and want to pay someone to help them. But there's a massive difference between an ethical partnership publisher who is a self-publishing service who basically provides printing and upload services and who charges a reasonable amount versus companies who still might sound the same, but they might charge you 10 times as much money, and you'll just get, a kind of a crappy cover and a lot of problems with getting that manuscript back. And this is one of the things that I faced back in 2008 when I first self-published my first book, before the Kindle, before I learned about all of this stuff. Now, on the marketing, we actually have a question about this. Deborah says, I'm trying to avoid losing money by hiring the wrong person's services to mentor me through the book launch process. Do you think hiring a book launch service is good? Two services that have solicited me are Chandler Bolt's Self-Publishing School and Tim Grohl at timgrohl.com. They promise a lot. It's tempting. It's not cheap either. Okay, so I know Chandler and Tim Grohl, and I'm actually doing a webinar with Tim about his course, Launch a Bestseller. Now, the reason they have courses, and some of them, yes, are pricey because these guys are very experienced. Tim in particular has worked with some really big names and got them into the bestseller charts. But the point is that they offer training courses. As far as I know, neither of those guys offer services that you pay and they do it for you. So what if they do, I'm not aware of them, but basically, and I have training course, and so does Mark Dawson with Facebook ads, and so does Nick Stevenson, and lots of indies now have training courses teaching you how to do stuff yourself. And this is the point. So, and what Orna just said is understanding what you want, in which case often you will need some kind of course or read a lot of books. So, buy the top internet marketing books or whatever. But we all have to learn this stuff. It's like learning how to write a novel, or learning how to write a nonfiction book, or learning how to self-publish. Like, marketing is another skill you have to learn, and then outsource the things that you know how to do, but you know what they're worth as well. And also know your definition of success. So don't pay someone to do your Facebook ads when you've only got one book and it's 99 cents with no reviews or something like that. So I think just be really, really careful and educate yourself, whoever you decide that you, and in terms of choosing who you want to educate you, you've got to resonate with them in some way. I know people like, I know Chandler, he is probably the opposite to me in so many ways. You know him too, right? And someone like Tim, still an American, very, very different, you know. So this is the thing, often you will learn from the people that you resonate with, and I think that's really important, and you'll learn who to trust yourself. So I can't recommend who you should use, and neither can Orna. The Alliance will be doing this paid where we'll say who might be ripping you off. But the aim is to educate yourself, and if you're not interested in investing in your marketing education, I don't know if you can be a successful indie author.
It's part of being a good publisher. You know, a lot of authors are good at writing and, you know, make themselves good at writing, and then they want to self-publish. Well, then you have to make yourself good at publishing. You've got to become a good publisher for you, you know, which means selling the amount of books that's going to make you happy, reaching the kind of reader you want to read. But a lot of authors say, well, I just want to write, I don't want to put, well, then you can't be a self-publisher, because self-publishers publish, and marketing and promotion is key to publishing. To publish means to make public. It means to reach your reader. It is a business proposition, because you're going to ask people to pay you for your book. And so you are actually, if you're taking on self-publishing in a real way, and becoming an indie author and, you know, a professional indie author and so on, then it's essential that you understand what it is to publish and learn the key steps. You will do far better getting a good course from somebody who's walked the walk and who knows what's working in the indie space now than you will paying a service who may not even know how to sell self-published books. There are loads and loads and loads of marketeers who haven't got a clue how to sell a self-published book, and they will give you really bad advice. So there are no shortcuts in this, and that's why, you know, the sector is just dividing out between those who are prepared to keep the learning going, stay on top of it. And neither of us would say this is easy. It is a big, big learning curve. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It's huge to write a book, and then it's huge to publish a book. They're two different things, and they need a whole load of different skills. But there are people who are doing it and doing it really well and absolutely loving it. It gives you a degree of creative freedom that authors could only dream of before. And the other thing I'd like to say about the teaching end of things is I have heard a number of authors speaking quite bitterly about some authors who are operating in the space and talking about the cost of the courses and so on. And I would just say to that teaching and writing have always gone hand in hand. Teaching has always been a supplementary kind of day job for a writer, because most writers don't make enough money from their writing alone. So teaching has always been a fallback. In the past, it was the university or the school or the business association or whatever that got the money. Now the money's going directly to authors. That's a great thing. And it's also something that almost any author can do, because by definition, if you've written a book, you're either an expert on some kind of subject matter, or you're an expert on writing and publishing a book, which is something that lots of people want to know about. And you can perhaps offer something in this space. So rather than saying, I just want to write and I want to be my ivory tower, well, if that is what you want, then there is absolutely no point in calling yourself a self-publisher, because you're not really, you know, you may have put a book out there, but that's not publishing. Rant over. You've disappeared, Joe. I can't hear you.
Hey, here we go. I'm back. Yes, I was saying, I was talking with my mic off. No, I was saying, gosh, you're being hardcore today. But I think this is really important for us to keep doing. And I interviewed Rachel Abbott last week, you know, who's the UK's probably #1 top earning indie with over 2 million books sold. And, you know, I asked her, can anyone be an indie author, a successful indie author? And, you know, we both kind of said, well, no, because actually there's a mindset change that you have to have around exactly what you're talking about. And if you're someone who loves to learn, and you're someone who's willing to kind of muck in and learn new stuff, you know, I've got a degree in theology. I didn't learn marketing at college. I've learned marketing by learning marketing, doing it and reading books and doing courses. And, you know, this is how we learn stuff and change. And you have to change your mindset if you want to be successful, whatever your definition of success is. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. And on the teaching, you're right. Every single university has teachers who are writers who don't earn enough money from their books. So
and they don't earn enough money from the university either. They're paid appallingly. So we should be thrilled that authors are actually charging decent money for their work and their ideas, and we should be hoping to join them. You know, that is the positive, creative attitude that will actually make some great things happen. Sitting on the sidelines saying, oh, there's this horrible trend where authors are now kind of doing courses and ripping other authors off. It is not a rip-off to charge appropriately for something that's worthwhile. And you very quickly see if a course isn't worthwhile because it's all over the testimonials. It's all public now. It's all out there. These are all part of the positive thing of being an author these days. So, yeah. You better answer a question.
Whoa. No, I think we answered the question. It was more about hiring people versus learning to do it yourself. Okay, so we have two questions. We got lots of double up questions this week. Both Luke and Rachel have said about finding an agent to represent the other rights. So foreign rights, you know, film rights, TV rights. Is it acceptable to get an agent just for these subsidiary rights? Now, what's interesting, and you're going to say the official view, but I saw one of the big agents in America just put out a post that said it is no longer viable to just get an agent for these rights. So I wonder if we're in a bit of a tipping point where the agents are going, do you know what? We want, you know, there was this couple of years where they've taken on big indies like Hugh Howey, and they've, you know, done foreign rights and kept ebook rights. But I wonder whether we're getting to a point where they want a bigger chunk of the main value. What do you think?
The agent always wants a bigger chunk of the main, and they always want to bundle, and they always want to, you know, I mean, agents are in this very kind of invidious position where they represent the author, and, you know, they're in negotiation against the publisher, but actually they're much friendlier with the publisher. They're having lots more lunches and getting drunk at night with the publisher these days, because, you know, and a writer wants that, because you want somebody who has a good relationship with the publisher that you're hoping to sell your book to. Lots of agents won't touch sub-rights alone, you know, they won't do it. But a huge number of agents are recognizing the writing on the wall of all the people in this ecosystem. Agents are second to authors, reinventing themselves, finding new ways to do what they do, finding new ways to make money. So selling sub-rights is an obvious place where they have the expertise that the author doesn't have, but the way in which they've traditionally done it, which is based on, you know, 15%, when you make money, I make money, all of that. Some of that may have to change. New business models may have to come up. What we're seeing is more and more of that, where publishers are actually, if an indie has done well in ebooks, that they are interested. The doors are opening. They're still very closed. You know, we're moving ahead so quickly in this space that we think, we don't even realize how much our thinking has changed, and how very slowly the thinking is changing in the trade publishing arena. But it is changing, and it has to, and time and tide are with us. So I think it's just inevitable. It will happen. In terms of getting an agent, however, back to the practical side, more than the actual layout of the industry, in terms of getting an agent, it's not easy to find an agent who will represent you for sub-rights alone. And again, I'm thinking that, you know, we're looking at ways in which assistance can be used in this space. It's a very administratively heavy kind of space, but if there's talent there and if there's a proven record, then people are interested. So take a look at the book, which talks in detail about some of these issues. We have an agent who represents our professional members, as most of you know, and most agents need you to be selling a reasonable amount before they're going to be interested anyway. But we also have some members who have done really interesting things, like just fired off query letters themselves to territories that they want to be published in, and they have done that. And, you know, there are indies who have quite famously, you know, so 24 or 36, 48 or more countries, small deals, $5,000 or $10,000 each maybe, but over time and
Adds up.
It's money. You just give them the manuscript, you know.
Mm.
So you get on with writing another book and they put it out there, and sometimes it does well and you get more than your advance, and sometimes your advance is all you get. So contracts are key here, really, really, really important. And if you're on the point of getting a contract, that is usually a very good time to go and talk to an agent. Almost any agent will represent you if you have an offer, and they will almost all do better for you than the 15% you will pay them, because they're experienced negotiators and they know what to look for in the contract. They'll save you an awful lot of time, because very often in a publishing contract, it's not what's in there that's problematic, though. Well, very often that's problematic too, but what authors don't know to look for certain clauses that are missing. So yeah, hire an agent at the point at which you have managed to get some interest for optimum results.
And go back to the book, how authors sell publishing rights.
Yeah,
which is fantastic. Yes, again. Okay. So Sharon says, social media. At what point does an author start growing organically? So the crazy social media cycle and the myriad of Facebook and other ads and social interaction are going to stop. I don't see Nora Roberts or Diana Gabaldon doing it. What can we do as indies to get the sales where we can spend more time on writing? So first of all, we've talked a bit about this. Diana Gabaldon and Nora Roberts can do whatever the hell they like. But I've been tweeting with Stephen King on Twitter, and, you know, I've seen Lee Child speak to every blooming conference you can possibly see. The guy does not stop. He writes one book a year, but boy, does he put the time in conference speaking. You know, I don't know. You can pick big name authors and they're out there hustling. Because even if you have a massive contract, like someone like Lee Child, your publisher will want you to do this stuff. So basically, indies use social media and online tools because we can do that. Like, we're not going to get the speaking gigs Lee Child gets. So we have to hustle in our own way. Now, you have to find what works for you. You have to find the platform that you enjoy. And if you enjoy it, it becomes more pleasurable. So, I love Twitter, so I use Twitter on my phone. I don't particularly love Facebook, but the tools that you need, a scheduling tool. If you don't want to be on social media, I mean, you don't have to use social media; it's a choice. But if you want to use it, use a scheduling tool like Buffer app, where you can just schedule all these posts once a week, and it will just post it out there. Interesting stuff that your audience will like. You can. I'm also using meetedgar.com, which helps you schedule your own blog posts like over and over again, whereas Buffer app is for individual posts over time, and I will find things on my feed and just schedule them with a couple of clicks. So you can do all this. You can hack social media, or you can get an assistant, a virtual assistant, if you want help with that. There are lots of options. But if you don't want to do social media, then you have to think, how else am I going to start attracting the type of people who might like to read my books? So I think it comes back to, you know, what do you need to put in order to market your books? You get to choose.
And there's implicit in the question is a sort of sense that if I do this for long enough, then I can stop, you know, and which I think ties into a kind of myth that there is around writing, that, you know, at some point you hit bestsellerdom, and then when you do that, that's fine, and you stay there forever. You don't ever have to do anything again, and it doesn't work like that at all. And what we need to find instead is, how do we knit whatever our marketing is into the fabric of our books and our lives, and who we are as writers, and why we write in the first place, and what our intention was, what our creative intention was when we were writing our book, or when we set off to be a writer. And see if we use social media or whatever way we use to reach readers, because that's what we're talking about, letting readers know. First of all, marketing is just letting people know that your book is there. Promotion is specific, targeted, activities around price or something that will sell more books in a particular time space. But generally, let's just stick to the marketing idea of reaching readers. Then whatever way you decide to do that, it should be something that is wholly integrated in your life and in your books. And then it's forever. It's part of what you do. It actually is part of your writing. This takes a long time. It takes a long time to understand what we're actually doing. It takes a long time to drop some of the ideas we have about writing that, you know, we are entitled, maybe, or we should be able to just write and put it out there and somebody should pay us. But it's not going to happen. I mean, it might happen like that for a very rare person, but in general, it's not going to happen. We are very lucky now that we can actually, for the first time in history, as book writers, create an actual viable business plan, which will take us to our readers and give us enough money to keep doing what we love doing. That's a good thing, but we have to turn up for it. It's not going to happen the other way. Gosh, I seem to be saying that over and over tonight. I don't know why. It must be
we're giving some tough love. Tough love. Good. We have loads more questions on marketing, but they kind of go in, and there's several questions on each end of the scale. A couple of questions on, I have one book out, what shall I do for marketing? At the other end of the scale, literally 2 people have said, I have 10 books out. What can I do for marketing? So I'm going to give my 1 tip for 1 book and 1 tip for 10, and then you can do 1 for 1 and 1 for 10. Okay, so my 1 tip, if you have 1 book, I'm sorry, I love the other platforms, but if you have 1 book, go KDP Select and maximize everything you can do with that, free days and countdown deals, and you can do ads on there, etc. So 1 book, do it. Or 1 book in a series, do it. If you have 10 books, and I'm assuming that they are related in some way, this is a big thing. Like, your books have, if you have 10 books, you've already written them. So I would put at least 1 on like free, either perma free or price pollster free, to build up your email list. And the email list would have, if you have 10, you can actually guide people through your books by emails. So then you get the emails, and you also can direct people to the books they might like, because 10, you should be doing all right with 10, especially if they're related. If you're not doing all right with 10, then they're probably not related, and you're probably losing readers in the gaps. So there's 2 quick ones. Orna?
Or if you're not doing well with 10, it may just be that you haven't got your funnels set up right. So just writing more and more and more books isn't quite enough. You have to then bring them together in a way that makes an attractive proposition. And yes, series are great. If they're all unrelated, then you're essentially the brand. If you're the kind of writer who can't do series or doesn't want to do series, and you have 10 standalone books, then you and your writing and how you approach life and all of that has to be your kind of what you build up around your books as you carry on writing them. And it helps for that type of branding if your writing style is unusual or noteworthy, or beautiful or lyrical or funny, or has a kind of a standout USP kind of thing. For series and so on, the story and the actual, I love book 1 of the series, I can't wait to read book 2, that kind of, I can't wait to read, that's what you're going on there. So yeah, the most important thing when you have lots of books is that you present them attractively in irresistible offers to people that gets them in. So, and then you have crossover so that they know about your other books and how to get at them, and you make everything really, really easy. Because I have seen authors who have loads of books and really good covers and everything's going on really, really well. But it's actually quite difficult to get at the book, and you're not sure, is it on, which platform is it on, and are they trying to set it on their website, and you can't find your way around the website and that kind of stuff. So you need to get all your fundamentals in place, probably. And on the book 1 thing, yes, I agree. There is the option with book 1 to not market, to actually just get on and write book 2, and don't get caught up in marketing, because it's a bit disheartening. Finishing a book is such a huge achievement, and then getting the production skills to put it out there is a huge achievement in and of itself. You might consider that I'm not going to market until I have 3, and then I know that I can actually do things with with the 3 books. And also thinking in terms of the book that's coming next is a very good thing for a writer to develop. We can get very hung up on our first book and why isn't it selling and nobody cares, and an awful lot of creative energy can leach into that whole dynamic. You know, I think it's actually inevitable a bit. It's like, you know, you have a birth or something. There is going to be the inevitable reaction, but it is an option, in other words, to not market until such time as you feel you've got something that readers are going to be really interested in. Because remember, there's a lot of books coming out. You know, you've got to work out, why would a reader want to spend money and time with my book? What am I offering? What am I bringing? You know, we're in service to readers. What are we serving up? That's the most important thing we have to work out. And it can take us a very long time to work that out, you know.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Okay, quick question. Has ALLi got an insider contact at Amazon so we don't have to go through the general customer support, a bit like Andy from Ingram?
I'm afraid Andy from Ingram is just super interested. He's special and, in a totally good way. Yeah. Andy just takes a huge interest in the indie author space, and so hops into the forum and everything. We do work with all the services. We know what's going on. We meet regularly. I'm meeting with Amazon on Thursday. You know, ALLi is very much there, the front of their mind. We feed back a lot of what's going on. They do totally listen in terms of the group, but in terms of allowing you to skip their excellent customer support, no, they're not interested in that.
Okay. Abby says, can you upload your book to Kindle and make it available for pre-order? Yes, you can, but be very, very, very careful, because if you miss your final upload date, you will be banned for a year. So I don't think doing pre-orders is an early stage author thing. I think it's when you know your own writing schedule and you know you can deliver on that date. So yes, you can, but just take it real careful, and probably only once you've written a couple of books. And even then, some people don't like it because you spread your sales ranking, whereas you know, on Amazon you want it to kind of hit at one point. So okay, question for you. Mark says, I've used a free ISBN for the CreateSpace edition of my 2 print books. However, I keep hearing I should also be using Ingram Spark. Can I upload these same books through Ingram with new purchased ISBNs? So there would be 2 copies out in the world with 2 different ISBNs. And is Ingram worth the expense? As I believe, Joanna, you're only with CreateSpace. So Orna and I have this discussion every month. Yes, I'm CreateSpace only, and I don't buy my own ISBNs. But Orna?
It depends on what you're trying to achieve. So just because, you know, you keep hearing you should be with Ingram Spark doesn't mean that you have to be with Ingram Spark. So you need to work out, first of all, what's your print strategy? Why are you using print in the first place? So Joanna's answer is completely right for her. Print is not a big part of her business model. She's not really that into print books. The content is what it's all about for her. She's not, a lot of authors have a love affair with print. A book is not a book until they actually feel it in their hands, and can kind of, even better if they can see it on a bookshelf in a bookshop. If you want to see your book on a bookshelf in a bookshop, you are recommended to be with Ingram Spark. It is best in that case that you have your own ISBN. We do recommend that anybody who's taking print seriously, who cares about the bookshop being able to find the book, who cares about the ability to get into a library with a print book or with different formats of books, and who cares about being just part of the, you know, known as the publisher of record. In that case, it makes sense for the very small amount of cost, and the cost has come down a little recently, to get your own ISBNs and be known as the publisher of record if print is important to you. If you do go that route, then when you upload in both places. You need to do both. You do CreateSpace for the Amazon ecosystem. Now, when you are asked in your CreateSpace dashboard, do you want to have extended distribution, you don't take that. You then put the book up on Ingram Spark, and when they ask you, do you want to be distributed to Amazon, you don't, you tick no. So you're using Ingram for extended distribution, which Amazon does anyway, and you're using CreateSpace for the Amazon ecosystem. And then you're reaching everybody who might want to buy your book. And if a bookstore or a distributor or a retailer of any kind wants to get their hands on your book without coming directly to you, you're in the system, you're in the catalogs. A bookstore can look you up, they'll find your book in the catalogs, etc. That won't happen if you're CreateSpace only.
I must say, if you're on the video feed, I have a vanity shelf now. I have copies of all my own books on my own shelf. It's the first time I've done it because I had a picture. I did a photo shoot with piles of books. So amusingly, I now am and print. You know, I'm like, oh look, here's all my books.
That's a great feeling. Nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly. Okay, last question because we're almost out of time, and then we'll have to carry some more over to next month. Susan says, what are the most important things an author needs to put in place when switching from writing as a hobby to an authorpreneur? And okay, so first of all, I want to say that I'm recording a session with CJ Lyons for the Indie Author Fringe for the it's October, right, for Frankfurt's Indie Author Fringe. And that is going to be the topic of our conversation. What do you need to do before you leave your day job, basically, to become a full-time writer? So that will go into a lot more detail, but I'm going to go back to just the very, very basics, is that you literally have to make a decision that you're going to take this seriously. And I think the representation of taking it seriously, Helen Sedgwick, I think, would possibly agree with me, is starting a bank account under another separate bank account. You don't need to set up a company to take this seriously. You just open another bank account, and everything you do that's about your writing goes through that bank account. And that will immediately start making this a much more serious endeavor, and then start educating yourself around all these other things. So, but I think that mindset shift and setting up a bank account, they would probably be the two biggest things. What do you think, Orna?
Yeah, and sitting down with, I'm no accountant. I have number blindness, as everybody around me knows. I literally don't know the difference between 5,000 and 500 million. You know, it just,
that's why you're a millionaire.
It doesn't have any meaning for me. So I'm not a numbers person, but you need to get some kind of sense financial. I am a money person. I love money and what it can do and all of that. And you need to get, in your own way, in your own terms, you need to get some sort of sense of what profit and loss will look like for you, and what you will be, giving up to do this, because you will have to invest time and money and all sorts of things if you really want to make a go of this. So you need to do the same sort of analysis you would do if you were starting any other business. If you're serious about approaching this as an indie author, as a self-publisher, to develop that ability to put on the writing hat and focus and be the creative person, and then to take that off. And in a way, you can be really creative about how you publish, but you also have to do that kind of business work in whatever way works for you. And so to begin to think about those two sides of yourself that you're going to have to develop, and how is your life going to have to change in order to do that. And we're doing, of course, our for those people who are in London, we're going to be doing a whole day live in November for the first time ever. It's an opportunity for people to actually work closely with us on this very thing. We're going to be talking about how to make a living and a life as an indie author, and how that actually happens, how you make the transition, what needs to be in place, and so on. So we realize this is a key question for people. It's coming up all the time. So yeah, good.
And that you can find tickets at thecreativepenn.com/NOV16, NOV16. And I just want to say also that I'm coming up to it's my 5th anniversary of leaving my day job to become an author entrepreneur this week. So there will be a blog post. I do an annual blog post on what I've learned over the last year. So that will be coming up too. Okay, so we're out of time. So we will be back for next month's thing on the 27th of September. Same time, or you can add your questions into the form that gets sent around. And it's been fantastic. Thank you everybody for your time, and I guess we'll see you next time. Any goodbyes, Orna?
Yeah, thanks, folks. Really fantastic questions, and keep them coming. Yeah, we love to hear what you're thinking about and what you need to know. Every question we get helps. You know, we're answering one person, but it's helping lots and lots of people, because the same thing comes up for us all over and over again. So thank you, and have a great writing and publishing month.
Bye.
Bye.